Hello guys, my name is Larry, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I make my mash, my old Moonshine mash. This video calls for 10 pounds of cracked corn, 10 pounds of sugar. Ooh, that was something pretty tough. 10 pounds of cracked corn, 10 pounds of sugar, amylase enzyme, the yeast that you're going to use. I'm going to use Distillers yeast. You can use just about any yeast you want to use, but I'm pretty fond of my Distillers yeast because I know it does produce pretty good devil's juice. Now, cracked corn, just Moonshine, I can't beat it. I mean, I tried it with other kinds of shine, but man, that cracked corn stuff, just Moonshine just tops the list, man. You know, you can flavor it any way you want to. The proof's normally pretty good, but stick around. Let me show you how to make that mash. First thing we're going to do is we're going to shove us off some water in this old 8-gallon pot. Now, this pot, you're going to put a couple gallons in there. You got to be exact. I don't like to use tap water because there's chlorine taste in it. Yeah, that's a couple gallons. Now let me get me an old lighter, light this thing up. Like I said, I'm shooting these by myself, guys, so you just have to kind of work with me there. We'll try to get you through as fast as we possibly can. Turn this old bottle on. Put some gas in there. Hot dog, there we go. Now we're going to get that old thing ginning. We're going to bring that old water up to boil. Just about boiling. Then we're going to dump the sugar in there first. We're going to dissolve that sugar. And once we get that sugar dissolved, then we're going to go ahead and cool it down with some more water. Then we're going to throw the cracked corn in there. Now you can do this several different ways. You can cook the corn, cook your syrup, then blend it, but you got to bring the temperature down according to the yeast you're going to be using. Because you don't want to kill that yeast off, you know. If you kill that yeast off, you're not going to get good fermentation. So we like to go ahead and make our sugar up, mix it up real good. That way we know it's dissolved real well. Then we'll proceed from there. So stick around. Once this water gets hot, we're going to keep rolling. Just a little heads up, I like to use this amylase enzyme right here formula, starch conversion aid. It does tell you use 0.1 to 0.3 teaspoons per gallon to convert starches into fermentation sugars. Hey, this is a product of the USA. Isn't that amazing? Intended use brewing, distilling, and wine making. I'm going to throw a little kink in the plan today. Instead of me doing the sugar first, what I'm going to do is I do it both ways. I'm going to bring me 5 gallons of water to boil. I'm going to put the cracked corn in there, and then I'm going to put the enzyme in there, amylase enzyme, and then I'm going to go ahead and let that set for about 90 minutes. We're going to do it the second way I normally do it, so let's do that. Let's put 5 gallons of water in this old pot right here. Bring it up to 165. You can do it either way. You can do the sugar. But the main thing is when you combine them, you put the yeast in there, you do not want to kill that yeast off or you just piss it in the wind, wasting your time. Alright. Now you see we got 5 whole gallons of water in there. And we're going to bring that up to, like I said, 165. Once it gets there, I'll be right back with you. Now I might mention that the recipe calls for 10 pounds cracked corn, 10 pounds of sugar, the amylase enzyme formula, you know, your yeast, and I'm going to put some nutrients in there as well. And it also says 5 gallons of water is what we normally use. However, I have noticed that A lot of times when you put the corn in there, that it's going to soak up some of that. You're going to have some of the corn that's going to float to the top. That's really just residual corn that you can't really process. So we'll dip that out and throw it away. And what will happen is you're going to be pulling some of that water out of that pot. So you're going to have actually less product to. So what I do is I actually put almost 6 gallons in this 8-gallon pot. So by the time that I go ahead and get it ready to distill, I will have pretty much 5 or a little over 5 gallons of actual product to run through the still. So that might be something you keep in mind, is that it says 5 gallons of water and normally 10 gallons of sugar, 10 pounds of sugar, 10 pounds of cracked corn. So I would like to change that, to modify it to go 10 pounds of sugar, 10 pounds of corn, and maybe 6 gallons of water. As you see here, I've got my corn already weighed out, ready to go. And then we'll move right on over here. I've got my sugar, 10 pounds of sugar, 10 pounds, maybe 10.2, 10.3. And I got the amylase enzyme ready to go. And I've got my thermal gun out there so I can check my water temperature. Now let me walk you over here and show you what the yeast I'm using. It's actually a Red Star Distillers yeast. And then I'm using a BSG Fermex yeast nutrient. Now, you can use as much yeast and the nutrient as you want to use. However, I find that what I use is pretty much just spot on, and I'll let you know what that is when we start putting it in the pot. Now, there's one other tool I forgot to tell you about. You're going to need something like this, a scooper, a pooper scooper, or something that whenever you put the corn in this pot right here, and you're going to have some of those little grains, some of that old trash float to the top. So you're going to need a way to dip that out, and I find that this thing right here works pretty good dipping that stuff off of there. And you'll want to do that after you get the corn in there and it sets for 90 minutes. You'll see a lot of the residual stuff float to the top. Just dip that stuff out and throw it away. Let me throw something else at you. This pot that I'm cooking this corn in, or getting this corn up to temp in, or getting the water up to temp, and the corn I'm going to throw in it, is actually part of one of these Chinese made stills that you can buy on eBay and Amazon. Now, it is a 8-gallon pot. Comes with a lid like this where the line goes in, and then you got your temperature gauge on top, and the gauge is not very accurate. Now, we're probably not going to be cooking this in this pot. I'm telling you that this gasket that comes with this kit goes on the lid. I tried it on the lid. It don't work too good. It'll leak like crazy. So my findings are found that you put this actually on the pot itself, which is what we have the water in now. And it's got 4 clamps. Let me get you a shot of that. See if we can get it down there. There we go. It's got 4 clamps on it. 1 here, 2, 3, and 4. You'll also have to get you some regular squeeze clamps and put over here, here, and here between the gasket, which is this, and this lid. If you put this gasket on this lid, you're sure going to have leaks. So I followed steps that I've got from the manufacturer and a few people out there on YouTube, and they was putting the gasket on the lid, and they said that's the way it's supposed to go. Well, my findings tell me that it needs to go on the pot. That way it will seal up. At least that's what I found out. So okay, we got that out of the way. Just thought I'd throw that in there. If you're gonna buy one of these $60, $70, $80 pots that you find on YouTube, eBay or Amazon. Just my 2 thoughts. You know, if this recipe doesn't work out real well, and I know it will because I've done it before, I might have to make a phone call to Popcorn Sutton down there in heaven, wherever he's at. Tell him, hey, Popcorn, what do I need to do to change this recipe? If not, I can give old Tickle a call. Old Tickle, he knows how to make that shine real well. We give old Tickle over there on Moonshiners.com or whoever they with over there on that show, Moonshine Company. All right, we got that set. I'll call him if this don't work out. While we're waiting on that water to get hot, let me tell you, you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need a proof, a tally gauge, and you're going to need this gauge here to check the alcohol by volume. Or it says on the bottom of it, let's see here. Yeah, alcohol by volume meter gauge. Now, when you're gonna need to check it with this gauge before you put the yeast in there. Because once you put the yeast in there, you can't check it. If you check it, once you got all the corn and everything in here, and it's ready to go, and you got the sugar and you got everything else in there that you're gonna put in enzymes, etc., you're gonna need to check it at that point. It won't do you no good to check it after you got the yeast in there, because you're not gonna get any good readings. But normally, hopefully I won't break this. You'll see if I can get it close enough here. And this is the hardest thing I had to understand when I started. It starts out right here at 1.100, and I know you can't see that, and it goes all the way to the top of 0.990. After you've got the stuff ready to run, it should be 0.990. That is the gravity or the reading that you're looking for before you start distilling. If you distill anywhere in between there, you ain't gonna have good alcohol by volume. So it's very critical. This step is very important, or else you might not get the results you're looking for. I'm sure you gathered by now I'm making this video by myself because I'm running back over there turning the camera on and off, on and off, on and off. One other thing that's really, really very important is making sure your equipment is clean. I like to use what they call something called star sand. You know, don't worry about cleaning it all up if you're using it to disinfect and clean your cooking utensils and cooking pots and pans and spoons and knives and whatever. Just the bubbles left behind ain't gonna hurt nothing. It ain't gonna make you sick. It ain't gonna change anything. But disinfecting and cleanliness is very, very important in this. You do not want to cause any cross-contamination in the products that you're cooking. So keep that in mind. Clean, 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 disinfect all the time. Okay, we got the water up to 165. Now we're gonna put this old cracked corn in there. Pour it in there real slow and kind of just dazzle and bazzle it around a little bit. Alright, we got the corn in there. Now then you're gonna want to stir that old stuff around a little bit. I got me a big stick for this. Let me get my big stick. I'll be right back. You just hold that right there. Get this sterilized. All right, here we go. It's an old walking cane that I made out of a piece of mesquite. I'm gonna stir that around, that old witch's brew, the old devil's juice. Witch's brew converted to devil's juice. Give it a good stir. You want to stir this for quite some time. Okay, we're gonna let that sit there. Now we're gonna put the amylase enzyme. It calls for a tablespoon, but I don't have a tablespoon, so I'm gonna put a teaspoon and just a little bit more. That'll get me close to a tablespoon. There we go, right there. Stir that old stuff up, which is brew some more, or devil's juice, whatever you want to call it. You want to stir this for 5-10 minutes maybe. You don't really have to stir 10 minutes, but you know, got to get it stirred up pretty good. There we go. We'll get down here. Stir that stuff up. Now I'm not going to bore you with me stirring this thing up for 5 or 10 minutes. But that's what you need to do. You need to continue to stir, so that heat open that corn up. And at the same time, all this other loose stuff gonna float to the top. That's when you get your sticker, dig that stuff right over there like that. and just throw it away. Just like that. Throw that stuff away. Just like so. Now there's going to be more and more continue to float to the top as you continue stirring it. So you'll have to come back and do it again here in a little while. That's that old popcorn stuff I call it. Then you have to stir it some more. After I get it all stirred up, I'll be right back, okay guys? Give me one moment. Let me keep stirring. I don't want to bore you with the stirring process. Well, it's been a couple of hours since I last talked to y'all on the video. Now what we're going to do is, I'm going to back this camera up a little bit here. There we go. Let's see if we can get this where you can see it better. Now, we're going to go ahead and add our sugar now. We're going to put a little bit in there. It's still pretty warm, so the sugar should dissolve with no problems. I like to throw a little bit of sugar in there. Take my old walking stick, make sure it's still clean. Stir that stuff around a little bit. You don't want to put it all in there at one time because it may not dissolve good. Okay, just add a little more. Now, this was 10 pounds of sugar here, 10.3 pounds, something like that. We're going to be pushing the limit on that the top up there. The water going to want to come over the top of it. I'm afraid we may have to suck something out of there. Remember earlier in the video I added a little bit more water to it. Instead of 5 gallons, I got it up there closer to the 6-gallon mark. Because what will happen is once I start draining that juice, the liquid off of it, once it's finished fermenting, I want to make sure that I got as much as I can within an inch to inch and a half of the top of whatever I'm going to be processing with. We're going to go ahead and dump it all in there. Pretty safe to say that we made it there, right? You got to stir this stuff up pretty good. Because we let that temperature drop some so that sugar would dissolve, but still not be too hot. I did keep a lid on it while I was away from the camera to actually let that stuff cool down slowly, and that old corn just kind of cook a little bit in there, open up, release some of them starches that are in that corn with that enzyme in there. You see some of those, I call it popcorn, is coming to the top again. And we'll take that little popcorn catcher and get those out of there in a minute. Let me get that popcorn catcher, see if I can get a few of those out of there. So we'll start losing a little bit of volume as time goes on, but by adding that extra water to it, it'll make it a whole lot better for us, for me, whenever. See how that stuff comes out of there? There's gonna be some more come up here, I guarantee you. I got all the doors closed. You can still hear the racetrack out there in front of the road. It's a 5-lane highway out there, and them people run by here 90 miles an hour. Every now and then you get to watch a drag race between a couple of Mustangs or a Mustang and Camaro. These young kids think they got them super rods, man, that can outrun everything in the world. If they that bad, they need to go on Street Outlaws. Them more boys on Street Outlaws will show them more boys a trick or two. We sifted about much as we're going to sift off of it right now. But we're going to continue to stir it. And the next step in this process is going to be adding our yeast. Like I said, we're using Distillers yeast. And that stuff works the best between 74 and 78 degrees. If you put it in there above 90, it'll kill it off. And if you put it in there too cold, it'll take a long time for it to react. So we're going to let this set. We're going to stir it a couple of more times before we put the yeast in, because once we do put that yeast in there, we're not going to stir nothing. We're going to sprinkle that yeast right on the top, and we're going to let that thing just do its job. All right, put the walking cane down there. Well, that's where we're at, guys. Next time I come back, we're going to check the temp, and we're going to add that yeast to it, and then it's going to be taking its own task, own path, doing its own thing, and then after that, I really like stirring this old mash as much as I can before I put them yeast and nutrients in it. Let me get my old stir sticker going, and I'm going to show you another technique I learned. You know, you're going to stir it as much as you can with whatever you got, a paddle, a stick. But I also like to go around the outer edges of it and smash that old corn up in the bottom. You know, as much as you can. Kind of crack that corn, you know. And then stir it some more. Just continue to do that. The more you agitate that stuff, when the sugar's already in it, and the amylase enzymes, you're helping make it work a little bit quicker. Kind of like corn. If you want to use cornmeal sugar, it even works faster. But I'm kind of old school. I like the old cracked corn. I just, hot dog, it just gives it a real good flavor. I don't know why, but man, that cracked corn, especially the brand I'm using, it really does a number on it. I really like that. Now, before you go on and add that yeast, you need to get you a sample. Just like you see what I've done right here. And put your little hydrometer in there. And I know you can't see it, but that thing is reading about 1.170. You need to write that. Now, although I've cleaned this thing, I'm not going to be dumping this mixture back into that pot. Trash that stuff, discard it, because you don't want to contaminate, but you don't even want the slightest chance of contamination. So just chunk that stuff right back out. Don't put it back in your pot. Now we're waiting on the temperature. Temperature's about to drop down there in the 80s, 79 to 82. When it does, we're going to add the yeast. So let's see what happens when we start adding that yeast. Alright, we got it down to the temperature we want it to. Now, Distillers yeast, or Red Star Distillers yeast, is good up to 90 degrees according to the manufacturer's sheet on this thing. You know, I don't like to put it anything less than 74 to 88. I'm about 85 right now. It's a little warm still, but that's what we're going to put this in here now. And the other thing we're going to add is going to be, like I said, the Fermax yeast nutrient. We're going to add a little bit of that. Now, I come in here and I'm going to use this gauge just to double check, and I'm going to use this gauge to double check again and triple check. I like to make sure my temperature is just right. We're going to use this probe right here. We're going to stick it in there, and we're reading 85.9. That's about 86 degrees. That's pretty close. And of course, we'll shoot the temperature with this one. It's saying 84.2. See how the difference is on these damn thermal guns? 85.8. So it's safe to say we can add our nutrients and we can add our yeast to it at this point. Now I'm going to put 1.5 teaspoons of the nutrients in there. I don't have a tablespoon. A little bit of that one, and here's 1.5. All right. Now that's the yeast nutrient. Now on the yeast, on this 10, 10, 5.5, we're going to add, it said you really need a tablespoon and a quarter for all the water we got in here, but we're going to put 2 teaspoons. Sprinkle it out pretty good, and you do not want to stir this up at this point. Put just a little bit more. If anything, if you put too much yeast, you'll get a little bit of a funky flavor. But otherwise, when we come back over here in the morning, continue with this video, you're going to see that stuff bubbling like crazy. Now then, we're going to put our lid on it. We already got the gasket on there. We're not going to stir no more. We're done stirring. We put the lid on there, lock her down. Just like so. And we're going to go get the bubbler. Oh no, we messed up. We got to take that copper piece out of right here. It will not, the bubbler won't go in there. So give me a moment, let me take that out. Alright, we got that mix up on that lid fixed, and we got the airlock, or the bubbler I call it, on top of it. Now we don't need to do nothing but let this thing sit for about 2 weeks. Normally on this mixture right here, 10, 10, and 5.5, or 10, 10, and 6, whatever you want to call it, sometimes it does its job in about 8 to 9 days. But the airlock will tell you when it's finished. Once it is finished, then we'll get us a sample again, and we'll see if it's where it needs to be. Stick around, we'll continue shooting this video and let you know how it turns out. Well, it's now been about 16 hours, and I moved it into my little office area here, and the old bubbler, the airlock, is doing its thing. You see right there, we've already taken the gravity reading before we put the yeast in it. Now let me open it up just to show you what's inside and what it's gurgling and burgling and bubbling and roaring and ripping and roaring and all that stuff. Okay, now there's what you got in the pot. See, it's about 1 inch and a quarter, 1.5 inches up to the top of there. That way I can get the most liquid, that old devil's juice out of it. Let me get you a little close up, some of them old bubbles. It's doing its thing. Now, I'm not going to finish the video of distilling this, because it's going to take about 10 to 12 days probably. I have run some of this in 9 days. I mashed it out in 9 days. Let's see if I can get you a closer shot yet. So I'm going to go ahead and split this video. So stick around, hit the like, subscribe. And whenever we put that video out, if you hit that subscribe button, we'll automatically notify you when it comes out. Thanks for watching, guys. Stick around, stay tuned to our channel here. Hope you enjoyed the video.